What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here for our Showdown live stream for round two at the Memorial. Round one is in the books. You can see a few of you are already down in the chat, so always like to see that. We have Nick Mars down there who says, rumor is Reed turned in Hideki today, which, boy, if that ends up being the case, that's another reason to hate Patrick Reed. I mean, that whole situation where he ended up getting disqualified because of that, I guess it's paint that ended up being on his club face. Let's just hope that was somebody on TV that saw that called it in, or somebody like a rules official that ended up getting word of it via social media or something like that, and not Patrick Reed. That would just be another case in the Patrick Reed saga. You can see Catch Me If You Can finds that funny. And Cash also says they did a test on Patrick Reed's actual face, determined he was still a dick, but allowed him to continue to play. I absolutely love it. Yeah, dude. If he ended up actually snitching on Hideki Matsuyama, I actually get why his caddy was so mad, because when they ended up telling Hideki that he was disqualified, his caddy was not having it. He was irate out there. Looked like he was, trying to get it figured out as much as he could, but with the language barrier, they weren't having that much success. So it's an unfortunate situation. But either way, let's hop into what we're going to expect here for round two. So first off, the round one review, it played exactly how we expected it to. It's going to be the easiest day by far out of the four on the docket. And most of that was a byproduct of the weather they had there on Wednesday. And it wasn't the wind conditions, which of course were extremely benign today, but mostly the rain they had overnight. That rain made the golf course very receptive, and that lasted throughout the entire day. So if we do split this by wave, we'll see that there is a slight difference between the two waves, but still, even this plus 1.1 average that we saw in the afternoon was a little bit better than I expected. I thought I was going to play at least 1.5 shots over par, and that is what we should expect tomorrow, because a lot of that dampness is going to have evaporated out of that soil. And if Jack Nicklaus really wants to get fun with it, he could turn the sub-airs on tonight. It's not supposed to rain until right around 2 a.m. So if they wanted to turn the sub-airs on for like 3-4 hours here right after the round, doing so would make the greens extremely firm and also probably closer to a 12.5 on the stint meter. So the scoring average, if that happened, would soar. I expect the scoring averages in the morning to, at the very least, be this 1.1 shots over par. And then in the afternoon, you're probably looking at something in the 1.5 shots over par. And that is despite having some benign conditions. You can see the wind gusts and, of course, the sustained winds, very similar here on Friday to what we saw on Thursday, where the sustained winds were in the single digits for much of the day. The wind gusts didn't really get higher than 15 miles an hour. For tomorrow, it's the exact same story. So really the only change is going to be the greens that are going to get firmer and faster as the week goes on. The same exact thing will happen with the fairways. So it's going to get harder to hit those with this 4-inch bent grass rough. It's going to be a factor too. So every single round, I'd expect the scoring average to get maybe at least a half a stroke harder. Tomorrow, it's going to play well over a stroke over par. And by the weekend, this thing could be playing like a U.S. Open in terms of difficulty. So that's how I expect it to pan out in terms of conditions here for the second round. We'll hop over to the player pool now. We're going to do this in a concise format. My goal for length here is going to be 30 minutes. So if it seems a little bit faster than usual, that is the reason why. But as per usual, anyone you want a deep dive on, please do not be shy to go ahead and let me know. So we'll go ahead and talk about the top of the board, which anytime you have Showdown for round two, it is always going to hover, the ownership that is, around the players that played well. So first and foremost, Cameron Smith, I have him projected as the highest owned play on the slate. Guys like Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, also Jordan Spieth are rounding up the pack there at like 17, 18, and right around 20% for a Rory McIlroy. The guys that are the quote-unquote pivots up top, going to be guys like a John Rahm, potentially even a Patrick Cantlay, who I'm not getting to. He really did look shaky, especially with the ball striking today, and it was the putting coming into the week that was holding him back. So I'm not all that excited about Patrick Cantlay, but you can consider getting to Colin Morikawa. He's going to be a relatively low-owned option up top. He shot 1 under par today, which in the morning wave maybe didn't seem all that exciting. Didn't seem like a very good round, but by the end of the day, that's in the top 50 of this event. It's well within the cut line at this point, which at this point is 1 over par. It's on track should have mentioned this during the weather section. I know some of you out there are probably worrying about the cut. It's probably going to be 2 over par, maybe 3 over par. I mean, if the conditions played a 1.5, maybe even 1.7 shots over par, which I think is realistic for tomorrow's round, then the cut line could get to 3. But probably going to be 2 over par just to be safe there. At the very least, 1 under par. And that would be if conditions were much easier tomorrow than what we expected. So guys like Colin are well within that cut line. So, the form has at least been better than average. The ball striking coming into this week was excellent. He's gaining close to a stroke per round with his approach play. The putters what has to come around. And on bent grass, he has been a little bit better than any other grass surface. And of course, the greens here at Muirfield Village, he won the workday in 2020. He finished second the week after that. Those top two finishes really tell you his familiarity on these greens. Clearly likes them. Clearly likes fast bent grass greens. That's where he's done a lot of his damage. That's why his metrics on bent grass have been so favorable over his last few years. So do you like Colin Morikawa as a pivot play? If I was going to go to anybody as a quote-unquote core pick, it would be Jordan Spieth, though. I mean, his round today really could have been a lot better, and I've been saying that about his round pretty much every single time he's played for the last month, and that's because it's true. Today, he had everything but the ball striking. Just the putting in the short game was there. He was playing like vintage Jordan Spieth, but on approach, he looked like Jordan Spieth from a year and a half ago. It looked like it completely fell apart. There's one thing that Jordan Spieth has had over the last month. It's been that approach play. So he continues to be a little bit of a disappointment, I'd say, right? He's shooting like 2 under par. He's putting himself in contention, but it seems like these ceiling performances are just inches away for Jordan Spieth, right? It feels like it's just out of our grasp at this point. And I'm going to continue to ride the Jordan Spieth bandwagon because we're getting pissed off at him for shooting 2 under par, making, 5 birdies on the day or whatever he ended up getting to, which is more than a solid enough performance, right? It wasn't an optimal performance, but if you're playing in a single entry, a 2 to 3 max, that sort of tournament, you were more than okay with his performance today. So I like him there at 9,400. He's also relatively cheap. At that price tag, you can fit him in as a second man in very realistically. And even Colin Morikawa, right? $9,500, relatively cheap, could very easily be your second man in or a relatively cheap first man in if you're going with a more balanced type of build. In terms of other guys I like, I am eating the chalk on Cameron Smith, so I'll just go ahead and say that. Going into the week, I was throwing away that course history, and it looks like that was a good bet because this golf course, in theory, was a great skill set fit for a Cameron Smith, and we're finally starting to see it. So hopefully he can continue that, go out there, maybe even win this week. We have an outright bet on Cam Smith. Victor Hovland, Matt Fitzpatrick, I'm a little bit worried about both of them. First off, Matty Fitzpatrick shot 2 over par, which is, it's not the worst of every player up top, right? I mean, when you get into this 8K range, there's a few guys like Patrick Reed that had really bad rounds. But if anybody towards the actual top of the leaderboard, he had the worst day by far, right? One of the only players that actually shot over par. John Rahm at even par was actually the second worst player. So I worry about that. I worry about the fact of the letdown after the PGA Championship. Perhaps he's still dealing with a little bit of a hangover after that performance. Disappointment on a very similar type of golf course. And I think he's going to be higher round than he should be. I'm at like 11% right now, which isn't anything drastic, but considering how he played in round one, you hope he'd be like 4 or 5% owned to go and try and take him as a pivot play. We got Shane Lowry here at $9,100. Of course, I loved him going into the week. Ended up finishing strong, getting to 3 under par, which I believe is correct. Maybe it was 2 under par. Either way, though, the putter's there. It's a great skill set fit. He got a little bit unlucky early on. Ended up giving a few strokes back that he certainly shouldn't have. But given that he finished so strong, I believe it was 4 under par his last 10 or 11 holes. If he rides that momentum into an even easier day two, because he's playing in the morning, could go out there and take it even lower. So I like that type of play. He was popular, so he's certainly going to be popular again. But kind of like Cam Smith, one of the few pieces of chalk that I will be eating. Next up, we have Willie Z. He putted the lights out today. Hopefully that continues. That's been a trend for him on bent grass. Joaquin Niemann at -1. He was kind of a disappointment. And first off, how the hell was he 23% owned? I thought he was going to be like 11%. And I'm normally really good about ownership I have a really good feel for who's going to be popular because I've been obviously studying this for a long time. And I just tend to think that I have a really good feel for it. Like just I don't want to say an innate talent, but sort of for actually projecting ownership, getting a feel for it. I had no idea, no feel for him being 23%. I thought it was going to be right around half of that because people were talking about Joaquin Neiman, but it didn't seem like they were all that convicted about it, right? They liked him. It didn't seem like they loved the play. Well, he was number one owned play on the slate. So clearly people ended up loving him. I loved him. I ended up having 25% of them, which I thought would be double the board. Ended up being 2% more than the field. So whatever, right? He was popular. I guess he had a slightly disappointing day, shooting one under par. So hopefully he goes down to right around the 14% I haven't projected for. Sanjay M here at 8,500. He had a also kind of like middling day. It wasn't all that flashy. They didn't show him much on the TV broadcast, but this is a great skill set course for him. I mean, great bent grass putting, relatively precise player, great approach irons. A lot of the things that we're looking for at this golf course, he checks them emphatically. I won't be playing Davis Riley. I think he's on a heater that's due to end at some point, and I love the kid. I'll be buying in on him as soon as his price goes down and his ownership goes down. I'll be buying in on him immediately. Like as soon as people give up on the kid, I'm going to be, all over Davis Riley. But while he's being steamed like he is, I have him projected for right around 17% ownership. He's going to be a fade for me. It's just an easy spot of regression. We see it time and time again. It's the story that it always just pays off like an ATM. Is he fade the guys that shoot super low in round one, unless they're a superstar and unless they're a player that's just a slam dunk play where the metrics all line up and whatnot. For Davis Riley, it was a lot of shots to like 3 to 5 feet, which is great. It's great to have those tap in birdies time and time again, but it's not like he was going out there and playing consistent golf, putting himself to 10 to 15 feet on every single hole and cashing in at an accordingly rate. It was madman golf. It was hitting 185-yard bunker shots on hole number 17 to screw me on prize picks like he ended up doing today. So maybe there's a little bit of a personal bias there because he did kind of screw me today. He was the difference between me winning $500 today and winning $6,000 on prize picks. So I ended up winning 2x my entry, right? But could have been a lot more if we ended up hitting for 12.5. So maybe it's a little bit of bias there. So keep that in mind there with that pick, I suppose. But I won't be on him for the second round, and he's going to be chalky. I can guarantee you that. Daniel Berger, $8,100 at -2. He looks healthy to me. So I kind of said going into the week, the reason why he was a sleeper for me is if he played last week and he was comfortable to tee it up this week, right? Just a couple of days after he made the cut last week, he's healthy. He looks fine. And on the TV broadcast, he looked completely fine. They didn't show him all that often, but whenever we saw him hit his shots, there was no wincing, there was no pain. He was taking full follow throughs, which for Daniel Berger isn't really a full follow through. It kind of half follows through to begin with, but it didn't look labored, right? He looks like he's 100% healthy, and a 100% Daniel Berger should be at least like $9,000, especially because this type of golf course makes sense for Daniel Berger. And I'm going to be buying back in on him. He looked decent round one. I expect that to continue throughout the weekend. I expect him to contend here. Keegan Bradley was an absolute madman today. His matchup was Cam Smith. And if anybody else was matched up against Keegan Bradley today, we probably would have lost the matchup there because Cam Smith made 7 birdies. Keegan Bradley made 6 birdies. So absolutely went off today. Thank God he didn't make 7 birdies because we obviously had the over on Cam Smith there. But I do like him here for this next round. He's a great ball striker. And while the putting would be concerning for Keegan Bradley, he's kind of been doing this. He's been gaining with the flat stick for his last 24 measured rounds. In fact, gaining over a quarter of a stroke per round. So definitely think that he's worth a few looks there. And if he continues that putting on bent grass, and the one thing I'll say about Keegan is a lot of this putting has been on bent grass when he's found this success. When he won at the Valspar Championship, that's a bent grass / Bermuda grass hybrid. So obviously a little bit of bent grass influence there. Maybe there's something to that. He putted well at the Valspar Championship this year. Maybe there's something to that. He played well at the Players Championship this year and the year before that. That's another bent grass, Bermuda grass combo. There's a common denominator here, and it's of late. For his career, you can see he's not the best bent grass putter, but of late he has been. So, I'm not the biggest short-term trends guy. You guys know that. I tend to think it's a little bit phony at times, but you're talking about a 5 to 6 event sample size. So I think it's large enough at that point. We'll catch up on chat down here. Let's see what we got. We got Nick down here. He says John is still angry. Yeah, if an angry John Rahm is a very intriguing and very invested John Rahm, because when he's angry, I mean, look at his bounce back today. When he made that double bogey early on, immediately birdied the next hole. He threw a absolute dart in there to the most difficult hole on the golf course. On the back nine, he made a bogey towards, I believe it was hole like 12 or 13, immediately bounced back to the next hole. You want John Rahm when he's angry. So hopefully early on, hopefully it's not a bogey. Maybe it's a short miss for a birdie or something like that completely sets him off, because that's when he shoots something like 6 to 7 under par. So yeah, I tend to agree with you there, man. It's kind of funny to watch him play when he's angry too. And he says Lowry had a sneaky good round. Yeah, especially considering where he was through the first like 4 or 5 holes. I believe he was 2 over par at one point, which for Shane Lowry, I was like, oh my goodness, are we doing this again? Because he's missed the cut at this event before. Or at least he blew up over the weekend if it wasn't a missed cut. All I know is that he had a hole where he ended up shooting like a 7 on a par 3 or something like that, completely blew himself out of the golf tournament. I thought we were on that trajectory, but obviously he turned it around. So that was good to see. Matthew says, great first round prize picks. I faded the Rahm pick, which turned out to be a good move. Can't wait for day 2. Absolutely love the in-depth info you give here. Yeah, that's the reason why I said the 4-leg power should not include John Rahm, because he was the one pick with Davis Riley I was kind of worried about. Because if you remember the last time we did a matchup card, it was Scotty Scheffler versus Davis Riley, and Davis Riley won by 3 birdies. So that's why at the end, when I mentioned the 4-leg power, I was like, I'm doing a card without Davis Riley and without John Rahm for that exact reason. So yeah, I ended up hitting for a 4-leg flex, obviously the 4 out of 5 on the 5-leg. So pretty solid day for me too there, but I'm glad that obviously you took that advice. We're able to tail that type of card too. Planet Warrior says, would you sprinkle any other outrights now? I haven't as of right now, Planet. I haven't looked at the board, so I don't want to give you any information here, but if I end up making those type of bets, I usually go ahead and post them on Twitter. So if I do, make sure you're following me on Twitter. I'll go ahead and update that, but nothing as of right now. Steven says, Homa thoughts. Double bogey shot his round. Yeah, I saw that. It was I don't want to say it was an unlucky double bogey, because he kind of deserved it, right? It was his problem for causing it, but I have him down as a blank right now. I expect him to be popular because he was popular going into the week. He was in contention at one point, right? He's still 3 under par. I don't hate the play, because here's the reason why. I don't hate him tomorrow. If he makes the cut, I hate him over the weekend, because the around the green play is an issue for Max Homa. And on Saturday and Sunday, no matter how well you're playing, you're probably missing 8 to 9 greens because of how firm and fast these greens are going to get. Because we had that rain on Wednesday, it still might be slightly more receptive than we're used to seeing, right? If they can't turn on the sub airs for whatever reason, that's okay for Max Homa, right? If it's receptive, that plays directly into his game. Like you saw today, like he had a successful round today when he wasn't missing greens, but with that double bogey, you see the problem with Max Homa. When he gets out of trouble, the reason why he double bogeyed that hole is he fluffed a chip, right? He fluffed a chip into the rough. The next chip, he ended up hitting it well past the hole. He doesn't handle that situation all too well. So he's a volatile pick. He's likely either going to shoot like 3 or 4 over par tomorrow, or something like 3 to 4 under par. So for a large field GPP, I think he's a little bit more viable than he would be for a single entry or a 2 to 3 max. I'm not going to be there, but I understand it. And particularly for some of these large field contests, I understand it. So don't want to talk you off the play. I won't be there personally though. Cash says, I'll be at the tournament all weekend. If you see a drunk guy getting arrested, it's me. We might need you to end up heckling someone if somebody be faded ends up getting out to the lead. So we'll be in contact. I'll have to let you know if we need the catch me fade out there. And Nick says, catch me, go paint Xander's 3-wood. He says he's on the job. I like to see that. And Planet says Spieth 2 under, but he still worries me. See, that's the thing, dude. We're worried about Jordan Spieth, and this was my spiel the other day about him too. We think he's playing bad golf, right? He's not. He's finishing in the top 10 like every single week. He's finishing 7th. He made the cut at the PGA, which wasn't his best performance. This is worst by far, right? 2nd, 1st place, made the cut at Valero Texas Open. It's like we have this conception or misnomer in our minds that he's not in this good stretch of golf where, in fact, by the models, he's a top 10 play this week. The numbers on bent grass are great. And he's as of right now, I believe he's in the top 20 or top 25 of this golf tournament. I mean, it's just the perception is so different than reality. He's going out there and he's a top 10%, top 15% play pretty much every single round we've played him the last month. So perhaps it's just our expectations with Jordan Spieth. We're hoping that he goes out there, has that 7 to 8 under round every single day. I don't think we have to jump off the bandwagon, right? Obviously, guys shot 5 under par today. That's 3 under par better than Jordan Spieth, but that's only 3 shots, right? I mean, if he shoots 3 shots better, we're all over Jordan Spieth for tomorrow, right? Whereas, you can say the same thing about the guys that shot 5 under par, right? Cameron Smith, he made, what was it, 4 or 5 putts from over 15 to 20 feet. He made a bunch of bomb putts today. Only 1 to 2 of those go in. Him and Jordan Spieth could have very easily switched places. So I get you on that. And I think it's a very common sentiment to think that Jordan Spieth isn't playing his best golf right now. But, when we look at the finishes, when we look at the shots gain metrics specifically, I mean, this is where it becomes like almost a meme at this point. He's getting over 3/4 of his stroke in 3 out of his 4 categories, right? And you can go, oh, well, the putter's been dog shit, right? He's losing the same amount, right? He's still gaining a stroke and a half per round to the field, which means on average for an event, he's gaining over 6 strokes to the field. That means, like, on average, he's finishing in the top 20. I mean, just based on his baseline. And we know that Jordan Spieth is a pop putter. And today he gained a ton of strokes at the putter. I hate to do the spiel on Jordan Spieth, but he's like by far the best play on the slate. So that's why I want to go ahead and make the argument, because I'm going to have a ton of them. And I think I'd be doing you a disservice to not tell you how much I like him. Nick Mars says, did we get a new mic cord? Sounds good tonight. We did, actually. Got a new mic cord. It's not unplugging. A lot of times when it unplugs, it switches to my microphone on my laptop. And when it's on my laptop, it's not as clear. It's not this nice mic that I have in front of me and whatnot. So I'm glad to hear that it sounds better today. And Plant says, Spieth did say in his presser that he's putting well. You could see it today, man. He made everything. Like, he had a bunch of par putts from like 8 to 10 feet. He just wasn't hitting greens like he usually does. So for him, he has to get the ball striking to turn around. But I mean, look at the numbers, right? Like I said, the numbers have been outstanding, like the best of anyone in the field from tee to green. If he can, I mean, let's look at it. He's plus 2.25. Yeah, he's number 1 in the field in shots gained tee to green over his last 24 rounds, right? If he just gets back to that and putts like today, it's over. He shoots like 8 under par. So we'll have to see on that, dude. I hope he does. That'd be pretty good for my DFS lineups and my outrights. Where did I leave off? It may have been Miss Seamus Power. Honestly, I don't remember where I left off. All right, let's just start here. I believe we talked about Keegan already. We talked about, we didn't talk about Seamus. So Seamus, I just like his upside. He's a volatile player, high birdie or better percentage, relatively good in windy conditions, which we're not going to get tomorrow, but also in very difficult conditions. He's got a solid around the green play. So I like him at 7,800. Billy Horschel, pop putter, could do a whole lot worse than that, in my opinion. Down here with Chris Kirk at 7,700. He didn't have the best day. He's 3 over par, but he's only going to be single digit owned. I could see throwing him in a few lineups, right? We liked him going into the week. I'm not going to just jump the ship because he had one bad round, particularly if he's going to be relatively low owned. Aaron Wise, I'm at 13.2%, which isn't crazy in terms of ownership, but he is going to catch a few eyes because he was popular going into the week. He had a pretty solid first round, great ball striker. So those guys always get a few more looks than most players. Siwoo Kim shot even par today. I believe made 3 birdies. So it wasn't anything flashy, but the form is there. The ball striking form, particularly with the irons, has been there for quite some time. Let's see. He's gaining over half a stroke per round in that category. So I do like myself some Siwoo Kim. Alex Noren, I'll be going back that direction. He didn't have the best first round, but he was at 5 over at one point, ended up battling back to 2 over par with a few holes left. Obviously, bogeyed one down the stretch. That's why we have him there at 3 over par, but very good form before the golf tournament. And even with the missed cut at the PGA Championship, he's still gaining across the board. Where is he at on here? There he is. He's gaining off the tee, approach, around the green, and with the putter. And most importantly, with the putter and the approach play, which are the 2 most important categories. So if anybody's going to go out there and bounce back at super low ownership, it's going to be a guy like Alex Noren. Tom Hoagie is a madman. He can get super hot with the flat stick from time to time. So I like him in Showdown. Arnaban Lahiri was 3 under par early. He was in a positioned to be first round leader. He was right behind Cameron Young before he went on that run to get to 5 under and shot 5 under par. His last 11 holes was not ideal. So if you're trying to look for somebody with momentum, run away from a Arnaban Lahiri. But if you're looking for good recent form, good course history, he's going to be your guy. Johnny Vegas is just mispriced at $7,400. Had a really solid round today and decent course fit going into the week. Cameron Davis is an aggressive player. I like his eagle equity. So I don't necessarily like the course fit. I don't like the fact that he's bad around the green, but because his long irons are so good, he is one of the few players that can actually eagle these par fives because you're looking at hitting like 240, 250-yard approach shots into all but one of them. There's one of them that's like 540 yards, which you might be able to reach with something like a 4-iron, but most of them, right, it's a 5-wood, something that you absolutely have to hoist into the air to hold the green. And Cameron Davis is one of the few players in the world. I mean, Rory McIlroy, Keith Mitchell, Cameron Davis, Bryson DeChambeau when he's healthy, not right now, he can't do it right now, are players that can hoist the ball 250 yards in the air with an iron, something like a 6-iron, maybe a 5-iron. That's what it takes to eagle these holes. And obviously in Showdown, making eagles is a very simple way to make your way into the optimal lineup. Let's catch up on chat, and then let's talk through this 6K range here. We got Planet who says, will he Z fade or will he be... Let's restart on that one. Are we fading Willie Z or will he be there on the weekend? So for me, I tend to agree that this is a good golf course for Willie Z. It's hard to say, right? The first round was excellent. The putter was there, which every time we get him on fast bent grass greens, for whatever reason, he makes all the putts that he sits over. And that's continued here for round one. So I would side towards him actually playing well, right? The putter has... It's not just like popping out of nowhere. He always tends to do this on these type of greens. The ball striking is going to be top 10 in the field pretty much every time he tees it up. So I think he's going to be in contention. Nick says Fowler tomorrow. I'm not the biggest Ricky fan. I have him down as a blank, so he's not going to be in my personal pool. But he played decent this morning, right? You know, hit some fairways, he hit some greens. I just don't know if he really has a ceiling performance in him. You know, for 4-round stuff, I'm kind of just hoping that he shoots 2 under par all 4 rounds, which could very easily finish in the top 10 here. But I don't know if he has that pop performance in him. So I'm not going to be there. Planet Warrior says Lahiri was right there. Crazy. Yeah, I believe at like 11 a.m., you know, he was like in second place. Had GPP lineups with Lahiri that were winning like $10,000, $15,000, which, you know, that's obviously the cardinal sin when it comes to DFS. Don't check your lineups early, particularly early on a Thursday morning. You're only going to be disappointed if you go ahead and do so. But yeah, he was right there. He was definitely in a lot of my lineups. And Catch Me Again says, by the way, there is no chance of rain here tonight. It's perfect. On the wind finder, they have a little bit of rain on there, but that's good to know then. That means they can definitely run the sub air. Yeah, for the wind finder, they have it at 7 a.m. It's only one little raindrop. So that's what I was going off of right there. But if that's the case, even better. We can fire it up even more, get that sub air work and get these greens to a 12.5, 13. That would only keep me off a lot of the guys that we've talked about, right? So the reason why we were fading a Max Homa is because the conditions, you know, unless they're perfect, he's going to have problems around the green. A lot of the times we're fading a guy like Victor Hovland, same thing with Matt Fitzpatrick, same with the issues around the green. I mean, even Xander Schauffele, he's not the best player when it comes to getting up and down. So a lot of the guys I have down as a blank, or even guys like Amito Pereira, Davis Riley that I have down as a no, you're going to want to fade them even more if there's not going to be rain overnight. If these are going to get even firmer and faster as early as tomorrow morning rather than tomorrow afternoon, then yeah, it's going to play tough. It's going to play well over a stroke and a half over par if there's not going to be any rain tonight. So that's a good catch on that for sure. I'll have to keep an eye on the weather. Wind finder is not the best for precipitation. It's called Wind Finder for a reason. Sean says, what about Patrick Reed stinking out the house today? Can he recover tomorrow? Yeah, he ended up being super chalky too. He was one of those players that I thought was going to be like 11% owned, and he came in at 20%. I have 20%, so I'm like right at the field on Patrick Reed. Honestly, I don't know, man. Like, he was playing horrible the last 3 months, right? The reason why I didn't want to make him like a value pick, a core pick, or talk about him on my channel this week was because it seemed like bad chalk. It seemed like a trap spot. he had been so bad for so long, at least 4 to 5 events, where he was losing 2 to 3 strokes per round to the field in almost every category. And then he popped the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, he made 5 strokes to the field with the approach play. Last week, he was pretty solid with his irons through the first 2 rounds. I don't know if that was just 2 tournaments of him going out there and playing well, or that was an actual trend of him fixing something, right? And today was kind of an indication that it could have just been 1 or 2 events of him playing well. So, Sean, I'm going to be avoiding him. I have him in my 4-round lineup, so I hope he plays well. But again, I'm right at the field on him. So whether he makes the cut or misses the cut, it won't really impact my player pool all that much. But I tend to side, at least from a prediction side, that he doesn't play well. Planet Warrior says, thoughts on Rory? I don't hate the play. He's teeing off in the morning, so I will have him in the pool. Obviously, that's why he's down as a yes. I didn't talk him up all that much before because I think it's relatively obvious play. He played decent today, particularly towards his second 9. He made 3 birdies on his last 9 holes. He made a birdie hole number 9 too on the day. So it was the last 10 holes. He made all of his birdies. Decent bent grass putter, coming in with great form, kind of similar to a Jordan Spieth. He's gaining a ton of strokes in all the tee to green categories. So I like him. I liked him going into the week. I'm going to like him here for Showdown here in the second round. Just he's going to be popular, and a lot of people are going to be on him. So you're not going to be unique getting to him, and you're going to have to think about ownership if you go ahead and do it. Steven says, advantage for the AM Wave. Not that I'm seeing. So in terms of the wind finder, we showed it a little bit at the beginning, but it's relatively flat. So I'm looking at it right now, looking at 3 to 7 miles an hour of sustained winds in the morning. So from right around 8 to 10 a.m., maybe 3-4 miles an hour less wind than what you're going to see for the rest of the day. But the wind that you have at 10 a.m., that's at 7 miles an hour of sustained winds, is the exact same the whole way until 8 p.m. So if there's going to be an advantage, it's going to be for like the first hour and a half, 2 hours, but it's only a 3 to 4 mile an hour difference when it comes to the wind. So not really, Steven. I think it's going to play relatively flat, at least compared to most slates where there's a lot more of a wind difference between the morning and the afternoon wave. Let's go ahead and move on with the 7K range here. We talked a little bit about Ricky Fowler here. Let's see. What do we got? Brian Harman at 7,300. I played him. I'll be going back to him in Showdown. He's a decent course fit, royally underowned after screwing people last week as chalk, including myself. I was on the Brian Harman train, obviously, and 2.3% owned. Volatile player, can get really hot in a hurry with the putter. I'm going to be there. He only shot 1 over, right? So he had a pretty decent day today too. Gary Woodland has been in form for quite some time. He likes bent grass, so he's worth a few looks. Lance Griffin, another bent grass specialist, could get hot in a hurry with the flat stick there too. David Lipsky is a great Showdown play. Same thing with Matt Jones. Both are extremely streaky players, high birdie or better percentage players. Sepp Straka, the off the tee play was awful, god awful, particularly early and then towards the end of his round, but he still shot 1 under par today. So it shows you first off how good he is at saving pars, but also how good the approach play and the putting was. So I liked what we saw from Sepp. He needs to clean it up off the tee, but if he can hit some fairways, kind of like he did at the Honda Classic, he has more than shown his ability to take golf courses low. So I like him at $6,900, one of my favorite plays in this range. Same thing with Lucas Herbert. Herbert had a great round today. He seemingly had birdie looks on every single hole, and he missed a ton from that 7 to 10 foot range. He had those like 8 to 9 foot ticklers, which you hate to have as a putter, and he missed a lot of them, at least 4 to 5 that I can remember off memory at this point. It could have been more than that, and still shot under par. So I like the ball striking that we saw. Usually he's a pretty damn good putter. Over his last 24 rounds, what's he doing? It's got to be pretty solid. Yeah, he's getting close to a stroke per round with the flat stick. Hopefully he can make a few more of those putts. He's used to doing so. If you guys have down as a blank, I don't hate Stuart Sink. He's a little bit of a streaky player. Mackenzie Hughes is just, he had that 5 under par round. I don't see him going out there and reproducing that. He's just not that guy. Mackenzie Hughes is not a Sam Burns. He's not a Ferrari out there, a race car. When it comes to these players, he's more of a reliable Toyota, right? He's going to go out there, usually shoot like 1 to 2 under par. There's nothing wrong with a Toyota, but he's not the fancy race car, right? Fancy race car type of players, right? Joel Damon is a fancy race car that's like 30 years old. Sometimes it starts up, sometimes it doesn't. When it doesn't start up, sometimes it blows up. Right? It blows up before you even get it out of the garage. But Joel Damon, when it's running, the 1 out of 10 times it actually starts up, it doesn't blow up on you. He goes out there and he shoots like 7 or 8 under par. Right. That's the kind of player that Joel Damon is. Right. So he is one of those high power players, those sports cars per se that I'm willing to get to. Eric Van Rooyen, same type of player, same thing with Cameron Champ. All three of these plays are very similar, extremely highly volatile plays. Outside Joel Damon, right, Eric Van Rooyen and Cameron Champ kind of had middling days. So they should be relatively low owned, like getting to all three of those plays. A lot of guys in this range that just played horribly today, or I just don't have interest in to begin with. We have Matthew Neesmith at 6,600. I'll be getting there. He's been on a heater for the last month or so on the PGA Tour. Adam Svensson obviously likes the golf course. So I got the story on this early in the week. Somebody, I'm not going to call out who it was. It's a relatively big content creator when it comes to golf. Said that Adam Svensson had won at this golf course. That is not the case. He won at a golf course that was down the road. Now he's played this golf course a ton, apparently. So caveat, right? He has familiarity with Muirfield Village, but this wasn't the golf course he won on. It was down the street. It was the Ohio State golf course, which is another Jack Nicklaus design. So 4 crossovers that you have from there, but nonetheless had a pretty decent round today, right? So maybe we lucked out running on that narrative, but either circumstance, he's 1.8% owned. He's a ball striker. He's played well at other Nicklaus designs, like the one that the Honda Classic was in contention down there in South Florida going into the weekend. So I like that. Peter Malnati is due for 1 low round per tournament when it comes to Showdown. So hopefully that's here on Friday. Kurt Kitayama, another player that played well at the Honda Classic. And the more and more the week went on, the more and more the Honda became a comp for me, because from a visual standpoint, they couldn't be more different, right? But the penalty for hitting it in the trees at this golf course and the penalty for hitting it in the water at Honda Classic are kind of similar, right? You have to chip it out at this golf course. You saw it all day today. Guys that ended up missing it pretty far left to right almost had a full stroke penalty, right? So, and the rough itself is almost a half stroke penalty to begin with. So Kurt Kitayama, more of a precision guy, great approach player, can get hot with the flat stick. I like a lot of those vibes. Bo Hostler, not quite as mispriced as he was for 4-round stuff when he was $6,200, but I still like him. Nate Lashley, he didn't play well today. He actually didn't make my 4-round lineup pool, which thank God, because he didn't play so well. But these shots gain metrics just don't make sense because he was super cheap this week. Let me find him. Here it is. He's gaining in every category. And now, obviously, it's just marginal gains off the tee and around the green. But you're not going to find a player at $6,200 ever again, I can almost guarantee you, that is gaining across the board with his shots gain metrics. It's just, it's a very rare thing to see. So at $6,400, I think you could do a whole lot worse than that, right? Even if he had a bad first round. Martin Laird, great approach player, can get hot in a hurry. Bo Hogue has a lot of local course knowledge. So he didn't have the best round today, but obviously I'm assuming he's had some super low rounds out there at one point, not under tournament conditions for Bo Hogue, but hopefully he can go out there and get hot with the flat stick. He knows all these greens. Robert Streb, he loves himself a Nicklaus design. So I'm taking a look at that. Brant Snedeker, a great putter. The ball striking has been there of late. You take a look at the shots gain metrics. Let's see. Brant Snedeker. He's got to be cheaper. There he is. He's gaining close to 1/4 of a stroke per round. Obviously, around the board, not doing so well, but on bent grass, he gains over 1.1 strokes more per round with the flat stick. So if he continues to hit the ball and approach like he has of late, and then finds that flat stick that he usually has, I mean, it's Brant Snedeker, one of the best putting strokes of all time. Maybe not the best putter of all time because he doesn't have all those elite wins and whatnot, but one of the best putting strokes of all time. I don't think you can really debate that. So like I'm there at $6,100, maybe like a Jordan Spieth, you can find that magic with the flat stick. And Sam Ryder at $6,100. Last play I'm considering, he likes himself some bent grass, decent ball striker, solid iron player, has a knack for holding out. I mean, we saw that towards the beginning of this year. And, one of the plays down low that you're only going to put in like 3 to 5% of your lineups. If you're playing a 20 max, maybe 1 to 2 of your 20 lineups. And just hope he goes out there and shoots something like 4 to 5 under par, which isn't crazy, right? William McGirt today, who you guys might not even know who Willie McGirt is, was at 4 under par at one point. Now he's won this golf tournament, but old guy recovering from hip surgery. If Willie McGirt can get this to 4 under par, I don't want to say anyone in the field can get it to 4 under par, but pretty much anybody's capable of going out there and having a ceiling performance. What we'll do now is we'll finish up on questions and then hop on out of here. We've got Nick who says, gotta fade Thigala, right? I would tend to agree. So let's see. What is this price tag? I know it was relatively cheap because he was in the PM wave. It's $7,000. I have him at 5.9% projected ownership, but they always come in way higher run than we expect. That's the guys that had like the 4 or 5 under par rounds. So he's a fade for me. I mean, if he comes in like 7% owned, right, that's not royally high. So I don't think you have to fade to hit the gala because it's not like I'm projecting him for like 20% ownership. If this was Sunday Showdown and he was one shot off the lead, then he'd be like 20 to 25% owned. So it'd be more of a fade here if, again, it was over the weekend. But as is, I'm avoiding him because I don't expect him to go out there and shoot 6 under par again or 4 under par. But you don't have to fade him. Timothy says, will List continue to crush or will Old Man need a nap? No idea. Hopefully he plays well. I have plenty of Luke List in my lineups. Planet Warrior says, any players at even +1, +2, or +3 that you expect to bounce back? So, yeah, there are. So if we're going to look at anybody up top, let's see. I mean, let's just sort this by score and do it that way. There we go. So players that I expect to bounce back. So actually I went up +4, right? Bo Hogue. He's a local. He has some course knowledge. Chris Kirk, Noren, Matt Jones, they're prime candidates at +3. Same thing with Eric Van Rooyen. Got Kurt Kitayama, Lashley. You can see a lot of these tend to be value plays, right? Kind of like I said towards the beginning of the week too, during our 4-round live stream, is I'm not usually willing to buy in on players that are playing bad of late. So guys with bad recent form up top. So like a Patrick Cantlay, right? That's why I faded him this week because the recent form wasn't so good. Whereas with a guy in that 6 or 7K range, if they're coming in with mediocre form, I'm much more willing to actually stomach that, right? Because they're a 6, 7K option for a reason. Whereas some of the guys up top, you want to make sure you're spending your hard-earned salary on guys that you actually think play well. So it's a lot of guys in that 6, 7K range. Some of them even towards the 8K range. What else do we got? We got Arnaud Lahiri, Lanto Griffin at +2. We got Peter Malnati, another volatile player at +1. We got Tom Hoagie, Brian Harmon. We got Gary Woodland. I mean, you get the idea. It's a lot of guys in that mid-tier range that I'm buying in on. Now, the further and further up the board you get, the more stud tier options you get, right? So the first quote-unquote stud we have here is a Colin Morikawa, who's at 1 under par. You see Joaquin Niemann at 1 under. So a majority of the guys that I'm spending my salary on are going to be the guys that played the best. But when it comes to some of my value options, I'm willing to kind of open it up a little bit more. Catch Me If You Can says, Minwoo Lee, my ass. Yeah, you tried telling us this week that he'd play well. I tended to side with you there, Cash, but yeah, I don't think he played so well there, man. I have to say that you having confidence in him definitely kind of put me on him a little bit more. But yeah, dude, he definitely didn't pull through. What did he shoot today? I didn't even look at what he shot, to be honest with you. What did he shoot? Shot +5. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, how's this guy number 55 in the world and have this recent form? Like this has to turn at some point. We're just giving Minwoo shit here. I like Minwoo. I'm pretty sure Catch Me If You Can likes Minwoo too. But outside the Masters, right, top 15 finish, that's great. That's what we'd expect from Minwoo Lee. Like miscut. Probably missing the cut this week. What's going on? Like, come on, dude. It's like that meme where you got the guy who's got the stick and he's pointing at the guy. He's like, do something. That's what I'm saying about Minwoo Lee. Do something, dude. You're the 55th ranked player in the world. Show it. You're supposed to be better than all these other scrubs out here. Catch Me If You Can says, rolling with CT Pantomar, who took a 10 today. He took a 10 today and still shot 4 over. First off, I got to go look at the shot link after this. I got to see how I got to a 10, but that means he was probably on a par 5, so he probably would have shot 1 under. Yeah, maybe worth a few looks. And Ricky Too Sticky says, Ricky Fowler's starting to turn it around a little bit. And I would definitely agree. The shots gain metrics were starting to look good for him. So if we take a look at those, you can see off the tee, not his best. It never is the best for him, but everywhere else is starting to gain. The recent form is starting to get there for Ricky Fowler. Let's see. What do we got? He's like 6,900 bucks. I'm blind. I know you guys probably see him on here and are like, dude, you're passing it up. Yeah, I'm officially blind. There he is. Top 25 finish, right? Top 25 finish. Made the cut last week. As of right now, he's in the top 25. Yeah, I think he's coming around, dude. I've bought in on him the last few weeks. We've had 3 made cuts in a row playing Ricky Fowler. But I want to get that top 10 finish, right? For these GPPs, for fantasy and all that, we got to get the top 10. We can't just finish in the top 25. So hopefully we can continue that throughout the weekend. But that's all I'm going to have here for the Showdown stream, guys. We will be doing this for tomorrow and, of course, for Sunday, too. So make sure to stay tuned for that. If you haven't already smashed the like button, make sure you go ahead and do that before you hop on out of here. And, of course, make sure you are subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of the content and streams to come. If you're looking for prize picks content, that will be dropping here in the next half an hour to an hour. So keep an eye out for that. Best of luck in your lineups, and let's get this